Usually we start these things off at 100 miles an hour.
Right. Yeah.
We're usually dissecting some tech trend or trying to optimize your morning routine. But today feels different. I really want to slow the pace down right from the jump.
It feels necessary, doesn't it? The source material we're looking at today isn't about moving faster at all. It's about what happens when you're forced to, well, stop.
We're looking at excerpts from The Altar of Empty Hands and specifically dissecting a song called Empty Hands, Holy Heart from the devotional book Redeemer of My Story. And I have to be honest with you. When I first read the title Empty Hands, my immediate reaction was negative.
I get that.
In our world, empty hands mean you failed. It means you showed up unprepared. It implies poverty or lack.
That's the cultural baseline for sure. We are taught to acquire, to gather, to have this like full arsenal of skills and money and answers.
Yeah.
But the mission of this deep dive is to flip that narrative completely upside down. We're exploring the idea that empty hands isn't a sign of defeat. It's actually a prerequisite.
A prerequisite for what?
To be filled. You can't be filled if you're already clutching something tight.
And the hook here, the thing that I think is going to catch a lot of people off guard, is the psychology behind why our hands are clenched in the first place. The source material talks about this instinct we all have to bargain with God, especially when things hurt.
Bargaining is such a primal human response to pain. It's actually one of the classic stages of grief, right?
Right.
But this source material takes it a step further. It argues that realizing God is not a deal maker, that he refuses to bargain with us, is actually the best news you could possibly hear.
Which sounds completely counterintuitive. I mean, if I'm in trouble, I want a deal maker.
Yeah.
I want someone I can negotiate a way out with.
I know, but we'll get to why that's a trap in a minute. Let's start with the lyrics that kick this whole discussion off. The song opens with empty hands I come to you, but you make empty vessels new.
Okay.
It sounds poetic, but I want us to treat that as a technical definition for a second. The source describes this gesture of empty hands as something very, very real. It's not symbolic.
What do you mean not symbolic?
It means standing before the divine without leverage.
Leverage. Wow, that is the key word there.
It is.
Because I think most of us, even if we are religious, we sort of treat our faith like a resume.
That's a good way to put it.
We walk into the interview room with God and we say, look, I've been a good person. I donated to charity. I didn't yell at my kids today. Here's my leverage. Now give me the outcome I want.
Precisely. We treat our behavior as currency. We think we can buy outcomes. But the source material is saying that to come with empty hands means you leave the currency at the door.
So no leverage.
No leverage, you have no answers, and most terrifyingly, you have nothing to bargain with.
That is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have leverage, I don't have control.
Exactly.
And if I don't have control, I'm vulnerable.
You are, and that's the paradox. The text says this posture requires trusting God, not because the circumstances make sense, but simply because he is still God.
See, that's the hard part. It's easy to trust when the math adds up. I worked hard, so I got the promotion. Trusting when the math doesn't add up, that just feels reckless.
It feels reckless because we usually decouple trust from character. We trust plans. We trust roadmaps. This source is asking, can you trust the character of the one leading you, even if the map is completely blank?
It reminds me of how children operate. A kid doesn't know the route home, but they know who is driving.
Exactly.
Which actually brings us to the personal story behind this song. The author of the devotional shares a really vulnerable window into her childhood.
She describes herself as a little girl in a season where life felt confusing and unsafe. Now, the source doesn't give us the graphic details of what was happening.
And we don't need them.
No, I don't think we need them. We've all felt that specific frequency of fear where the world just feels too big and too sharp.
And her prayer was simple. It wasn't eloquent or anything. It was just, make it stop.
The universal prayer of suffering.
But, and this is the crux of the conflict, it didn't stop. The trauma continued. And because the prayer for relief wasn't answered immediately, she did what most of us do.
She tried to cut a deal.
Yeah.
This is the part of the text that really stopped me cold. She writes that she asked God to trade with her. She explicitly offered to give up feeling happy if he would just make the pain end.
I just want to pause on that.
Yeah.
I'll give up feeling happy. That is a brutal calculation for a child to make.
Heartbreaking, but look at the logic. It's so transactional. She thought, if I sacrifice something valuable, my joy, my emotion, then God will be obligated to give me what I want.
Which was safety.
Safety. She was trying to pay for peace with her own numbness.
It's the foxhole God mentality. Get me out of this mess, and I promise I'll never have fun again. I'll be a monk. I'll be
Yeah.
silent. We try to numb ourselves as a down payment on relief.
We do. We try to become small and quiet and unneedy, thinking that if we demand less of the world will hurt us less, and we project that onto God. We think he wants us to be numb.
But then the author says something that shifts the whole perspective.
Yeah.
And she realizes much later as an adult. She writes, but God is not a deal maker.
And here is where we need to challenge our own assumptions. Because like you said earlier, a deal maker sounds nice when you're desperate.
It sounds great.
You want a transaction. You want to pay the toll and get off the ride.
Right. If God isn't a deal maker, that means I can't buy my way out of pain. That feels like really bad news.
But is it like, think about the deal she offered. I will give up happiness.
Hmm.
If God were a deal maker and he accepted that offer, he would be complicit in her destruction. He would be saying, yes, I will take your joy in exchange for silence.
Wow. Okay. So by refusing the deal, he was actually protecting her future capacity for joy.
Exactly. The source explicitly says God doesn't trade peace for silence or healing for sacrifice. He refused the bargain because the cost was her heart.
Okay.
He didn't want a numb, silent child. He wanted a relationship with a living, feeling human being.
That connects to something else the author mentions, the difference between surrender and numbing. Because I think in our culture, we confuse the two.
Oh, absolutely.
We think surrender means just checking out. It is what it is, whatever. That's not surrender, is it?
No, that's dissociation. That's numbing. Numbing is when you stop caring so it stops hurting. You basically kill the nerve ending.
So what's surrender then?
Surrender is infinitely harder because you have to stay awake.
Stay awake.
Yeah. Surrender, according to the source, isn't about giving up the ability to feel. It is about placing your life, your heart, and this is the phrase that got me, the unanswered questions into God's hands.
The unanswered questions. That's the heavy lifting right there.
That's all of it.
It's standing in the middle of the mess, feeling the pain, acknowledging that you don't know why it's happening, and still saying, here, you hold this.
It's active. Numbing is passive. Surrender is an active act of trust right in the middle of the chaos.
The source material breaks this down even further. It suggests there are two kinds of surrender. And I found this really helpful because, let's be real, sometimes surrender feels easy. God, I surrender this traffic jam.
Right. I surrender the things I can't control anyway and don't care that much about. That's the first kind, the kind that feels safe and familiar.
But the second kind.
The second kind, the source says, this is learned in places of deep pain where nothing is controlled and nothing feels fair.
Where nothing feels fair.
Yeah.
That's usually where I get off the bus. I'm okay with surrender as long as I feel like there's some kind of cosmic justice happening.
Of course.
But when bad things happen to good people, when the deal feels broken, that's where the rubber meets the road.
And that brings us to a really difficult theological claim in the text. It says, God does not sanctify pain, but he meets us in it.
Okay, we need to unpack that. God does not sanctify pain. I grew up hearing phrases like, suffering builds character, or God gives his hardest battles to his strongest soldiers.
We all did.
And those catchy slogans imply that the pain itself is a gift. Is this source saying that's wrong?
It is pushing back on that, yes.
Yes.
The idea isn't that the abuse or the sickness or the loss is holy in itself. Those things are brokenness. They are the result of a fallen world. God doesn't look at trauma and call it good.
So the holiness doesn't come from the event.
No. The holiness is formed over time, not out of the traumatic events themselves, but out of how he held us through it.
That's a subtle but massive shift.
Huge.
It's relational again. It's not, thank you for this car crash because it taught me a lesson. It's, this car crash was awful, but you were with me in the wreckage.
Precisely. And that's where the source connects to Scripture, specifically Psalm 34.98. The Lord is near to those who have a broken heart.
Which is a verse you see on coffee mugs all the time. But in this context...
In this context, it's the antidote to the deal-maker God. A deal-maker sits across the table from you, negotiating terms. That's distance.
Right.
This verse says God is near. He isn't fixing it from afar. He is sitting in the dust with you. He stays to slowly redeem what we couldn't fix.
And that leads us back to the song lyrics. We've gone through the pain, the failed bargaining, the realization that God wants connection, not a transaction. And then we get to this lyric. You take the small, the broken parts, my empty hands, my holy heart.
From empty hands to a holy heart, that's the transformation.
But wait a second. Notice the hands are still empty.
Yes, that's the point.
That's the part that bugs me. If I go through all this spiritual growth, shouldn't my hands be full at the end? Shouldn't I get the answer? Shouldn't I get the restoration?
I know, that's the human desire for closure talking.
Yeah.
But look at what the song actually says. The hands are still empty of leverage.
Okay.
She still doesn't have the fix she demanded as a child.
Yeah.
But something has changed. The heart has become holy.
So the holiness is the capacity to trust without the answers.
I think so. The source says this song was written from a place where the author no longer came to ask for deals. She shifted to trusting God to be near, faithful, and good, even when she doesn't understand the road he allows.
That is a definition of faith that is wildly different from just believing the right facts.
Oh, yeah.
It's relational defiance.
Relational defiance. I love that. That's good.
Well, the source mentions that the author refused to let the world win. It says she was broken and broken again, yet refused to be defeated. That's defiance, right?
It is. It's saying the world can break my circumstances. It can empty my hands of all my plans, but it cannot break my connection to God because I am choosing to keep my heart open.
Which brings us back to that image of the empty vessel. You make empty vessels new.
Right. It turns empty from a negative into a positive.
Right, because if my hands are full, even if they're full of my own solutions, my own coping mechanisms, or that bargain I'm trying to make, I can't receive anything new.
You have to drop the bargain to catch the grace.
Drop the bargain to catch the grace.
Wow.
That's the tweet right there.
It is. As long as we are clutching onto our deal, God, I'll be good if you make me rich, or I'll be silent if you make me safe, our hands are closed fists. You can't fill a closed fist. Surrender is opening the hand. It's terrifying because you feel exposed, but it's the only way for the vessel to be made new.
So let's bring this down to earth for the person listening right now. Maybe they aren't in a crisis, or maybe they are right in the thick of it. What do we do with this?
The source poses a direct application question that I think is worth sitting with, even if it's uncomfortable. It asks, is there a place in your life where you've tried to bargain with God instead of trusting?
That's a hard question, because the bargain can be subtle. It can look like, I went to church so I shouldn't get sick, or I was honest so I shouldn't lose my job.
Exactly. We think we're owed a smooth life. We think the contract is be good, get good, and when that breaks, we feel betrayed.
But if we follow the logic of this deep dive, realizing that contract never existed in the first place is actually freedom.
It is freedom, because contracts can be voided. Contracts are impersonal. If you realize you never had leverage to begin with, you stop trying to perform, you stop trying to buy God's love. You realize you don't need to buy it because he's already near to the brokenhearted. You don't buy nearness, you just accept it.
That is a profound shift.
Yeah.
It moves religion from a job where I have to earn my keep to a relationship where I am held.
And that is the encouragement here. If your heart is longing for more than just a transaction, there is a path to redemption for your story. It's not about fixing it yourself. It's about being held through it.
If this conversation is hitting a nerve, if you're realizing, wow, my fists have been clenched tight for years, the source suggests listening to the song Empty Hands, Holy Heart.
Yeah. Music bypasses the intellect sometimes. You can't always think your way into surrender. You have to feel your way there.
Definitely. You can stream the full album or pick up the devotional Redeemer of My Story. It sounds like a resource that meets you in the mess rather than handing you a broom and telling you to clean it up first.
And honestly, those are the only resources that actually help.
Before we go, I want to leave us with one final thought on that word empty.
Go for it.
We spend our whole lives trying not to be empty. Empty bank accounts, empty schedules, empty houses. We run from it. But in the economy of this song, the empty vessel is the very thing God is waiting to make new.
He can't work with the full vessel. He works with the empty one.
So if you're feeling empty today, maybe you're not failing. Maybe you're just ready.
That is a beautiful place to land.
Thank you for going on this deeper, quieter dive with us. Take care of your heart today.
You next.